Alright guys, welcome back to another video. My name is CFI Mundin, and today I'm going to be talking about something that seems to be overcomplicated within the aviation community. It's either we overcomplicate it or I just don't understand it and I'm just talking out of my ass here. But I don't think that's the case. I've shot over 100 approaches, half of those were non-precision, and I feel like I have a general grasp of instrument at this point, and I feel like my understanding of the VDP is pretty accurate. And let me go ahead and explain this as simply as possible. Okay, so a VDP is for non-precision approaches only. Okay, so we're going to be referencing this VOR 10 left approach out of the Boise airport. Right, this is not applicable to precision approaches. Okay, so this is not going to be applicable to your GPS approaches. Only the non-precision approaches. That's very. You have to understand that distinction because you're going to be looking at this approach plate and you're going to be shooting a precision approach, and then you're going to see something that looks like that and you're going to be like, what is that? And it's going to start confusing you. Okay, so you need to know how to separate those in your brain. A visual descent point, all right, is this upside down triangle, and it just basically means that and this is a big if you were to start your descent from this point, okay, you would get a nice smooth descent right down to the runway. That's a VDP, guys. Like, you can literally end this video here if you wanted to. A VDP means that if you were to descend from this point, all right, you would get a nice in this case, 3.03 glide path down to the runway threshold. So this allows us to be stable. This allows us to have our airspeed under control, and this allows us to get to where we need to get without having a super steep descent rate or a really low approach, okay? And that's all just math. There's an equation that you can use to calculate your VDP, which is irrelevant in my personal opinion. I've never used it before. I've never had to use it. Maybe that'll change in the future once I get my CFII rating, but as of right now, let's say we're on this approach, right? 5,000, and then we hit our point, yaw, and then we get down and we start a descent, ooh, and then I just happen to see the clouds pop breaking a little bit, and then I'm starting to see the runway threshold lights, but I know that if I go to the VDP and start my VDP at 3.3 distance, all right, then I will have a nice descent rate down. Now, I think where the confusion is coming in is how the MDA and VDP play with one another. Okay, so an MDA is just a minimum decision altitude. All right, it's for non-precision approaches. Let me draw a straight line that. It's for non-precision approaches. Okay, and it means that we cannot descend below this altitude, which in this case it is 3240. So we cannot descend below 3240 unless we have a set of rules. The runway threshold lighting, 1,000-footers, touchdown zone in sight. Like, there's a whole rig for that. It's a whole nother video. But we cannot descend below the MDA unless we have the runway in sight. Okay, so I think people are getting confused between the relationship and VDP. They're confused, which they are completely separate entities to one another, okay? They are non-related. The MDA is hardly related to the VDP. So you can literally just come on this approach at 5,000 and then hit your markers, which looks like it's 5,000, then 4,100, okay? So you're doing like these step downs, so it kind of looks like this, 5,000 and then 4,000. I'm just giving you an arbitrary spot. And you can hit your MDA 3.240 and just follow this to your VDP, all right? And then you're asking yourself, all right, at this VDP point, do I see the runway? No, not yet. So I'm just going to continue on this MDA because this is not a missed approach point, all right? That's not a missed approach point. So you could actually pass your VDP, all right? And then now I break out of the clouds and then I start my descent. But now I know that if I were to pass my VDP, I would have to make a steeper approach. So this is basically telling you that if you descend from this point in the sky, you can make a safe, smooth descent down. All right? If I'm traveling along my MDA and I'm for some reason really far away, and then right here I break out, then I start my approach down, I'm gonna have a really slow, low approach, okay? Do you see the distinction between these? All right, I think that's a pretty simple explanation.